let's welcome in Manav Chopra of Indiabulls Ventures. Good afternoon, Manav. Good to have you on. We saw a strong up move in the second half of the day. Really, afternoon trade is where it was at as far as today's day of trade goes. After the day of consolidation that we saw yesterday, what become the key levels now for you as far as the Nifty goes?
See, Nifty has very important support on the short-term basis at 10,700, and the overall trend is intact. The medium-term perspective, we are still in a very good uptrend, and for the short-term perspective, the momentum is still on our side. So, as long as these 10,700 support area is held, I think the markets would be inching higher, and most importantly, the banking index is showing that kind of an outperformance whereby we can still expect some higher levels to go forward. Looking at the momentum oscillators, they are still in the buy mode, so I still recommend a buy on dips approach. I think after a good series of rally there could be a short-term consolidation, but as long as 10,700 levels are held, I think we could see the immediate levels of 10,850 towards even 11,000 is possible in next few weeks.
Right. Manav, lots of stocks on the move in today's trading session. I will talk about them to you, but I really want to talk about Tata Motors and Tata Motors DVR as well. Both of these stocks looking good. There hasn't really been any positive trigger as such. I mean, JLR's numbers were good, but it spurred a lot of buying on this count. And after a long time, because Tata Motors has been a marked underperformer as far as all your other auto stocks go, do you see this momentum sustaining in Tata Motors for a while? Would you recommend fresh trade here?
Absolutely. In fact, this stock has already witnessed a series of decline from its recent highs of 440, and the stock is trying to form a base around the levels of 330, 335, and since it's been quite few weeks now, the stock has actually bounced from these levels. The recent activity, when we talk about the today, there has been good volume breakout with price breakout, so that's definitely indicating there has been some short squeeze which has taken at the lower levels, and with the momentum indicators are also indicating some sort of a positive divergence. I think it's indicating for at least a short-term bottom in place. I think going forward, the stock could inch towards the levels of 370 to 380 in a medium-term perspective. But at least for a short-term, we recommend a buy into this, keeping a stop loss of 330 for an upside target of 365.
All right, fair enough. Buy into this, keep a stop loss of 330, see good upside for a Tata Motors. Very strong move coming in for both a Tata Motors and a Tata Motors DVR on the back of those JLR sales, and of course, good sentiment, I think, for the stock. We'll take a quick break, Manav. Stay with us. We'll continue to put a lot of buzzing stocks in focus. We'll also bring you some exclusive details that you're seeing flashing at the bottom of your screen. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Tuned into the trading day. Markets trading with a positive bias at the moment. Manav, lots of stocks to talk with you, but let's get your trading ideas first. Which are the stocks that are on your radar this afternoon?
Yes, one of my picks is from the banking space. DCB Bank would be my top pick. At the current levels, the stock has observed a good breakout yesterday, and it has been consolidating its gains above its important support levels. So the stock overall has been in a very good uptrend, and with the breakout with volumes, we expect some higher levels to be achieved. The overall oscillators are still in the buy mode. At the current levels, the stock has important support at 194 on the lower side. This can be bought with a stop of 192 for an upside target of 215. My other pick would be buy on Jindalstel. This stock has been in a very good uptrend, and has been forming a series of high tops and bottoms, and also the breakout today with volumes is indicating this momentum is likely to move on the upside, and the prices have actually managed to sustain above its crucial weekly resistance level of 258. So the undertone remains bullish. I think eventually, looking at the oscillators, the stock is well poised to even move higher and test its recent all-time high. So one can buy into this with a stop of 251 for an upside target of 290.
All right, let's also get in Siddharth Zarabi on the phone line on some exclusive lines that are running on the bottom of your screen. This is what SEBI's view is as far as social relationships and the impact or the relation that they have on unpublished price sensitive information. Remember, this has been a hot topic for the market regulator ever since there was that WhatsApp earnings leak case where key earnings of blue chip companies were in fact leaked on WhatsApp, and that has led to SEBI looking into the entire entire social media aspect of exchange of information. Siddharth, simplify this for our viewers, help them understand what exactly is the key issue here that SEBI has investigated, and what is it that their view is as far as the role of social media, social relationships, and the sharing of this unpublished price sensitive information goes.
Well, Deep, let me first tell our viewers, this is an order in the matter of Deep Industries Limited. This order was passed by SEBI whole-time member Madhvi Puri Butch on the 16th of April. It has just come to our notice, and you know that typically most such orders, the respondents are given 30 days from the date of the receipt of the order to reply. So we do not know subsequent to the order what has happened. But on the specific question, it is indeed correct, as we are putting out on our lines, that very crucial conclusions are being drawn from this order, and this is where the order which asks for the alleged gains to be impounded and parties in question being prohibited from accessing and dealing in the securities market. The SEBI has held that Facebook friends, likes, establish connected persons for insider trading norms. As you know, our insider trading norms define connected persons, association, and frequent communication. And likes and friendship on Facebook has been held in this order towards the conclusion that has been passed. I'm going to read one specific line here, and it says that the directors of VTIPL were friends of the other people on a social networking site called Facebook. Several photos were posted which were liked by the party, and many of the other photographs were posted and liked. The profiles of these persons were having restricted access, and the photos posted them can be liked only by select persons whom they have added as their friends on Facebook. The order then goes on to say that it is clear that the parties in question had social relationship which can also confer access to unpublished price-sensitive information as envisaged in the SEBI Prevention of Insider Trading Regulations of 2015, and those details are given. It also goes on to say that frequent communication with officers can also be in their social capacity, as is evident in this case, by frequent interactions, including likes on the social media. I also told you the final order, but it is very clear that the order is based on Facebook. So if you were asking me about WhatsApp, I can now tell our viewers that in the case of this company called Deep Industries, the whole-time member of the SEBI has concluded that there is sufficient cause to pass such an order basis Facebook friends and Facebook likes. Deep.
Siddharth, in fact, Sandeep Parekh is also on the phone line with us to really give us a little more insight on the view of the regulator and what it means for the markets. Why don't you take that conversation forward, Siddharth?
Hi, Sandeep. I just wanted your views. If you have heard the details of the order that we have just laid our hands on, Facebook friends, Facebook likes, enough to establish frequent communication for insider trading, for connected persons, and such like. How would you respond to this order? What ramifications does it have, sir?
See, there is some nuance in the order. You know, the people have assumed that they've established connections merely because of Facebook likes. But if you read the order carefully, it talks about lots of other factual scenarios. For instance, the fact that both sides knew each other, and the fact that the person who traded had never traded before in any stocks and suddenly kind of sold after the information was made public. So I think this is only one of the corroborating evidences they produced of spouses liking each other's photos and all. So by itself, I don't think it has of much value. But if you put it along with the rest of the facts, I think it does make some sense.
Okay, now that's a valid point, Sandeep, because people in the market are now asking a very simple question that being friends with someone on any social platform, here in this case it is Facebook, tomorrow you could have other Twitter followership or WhatsApp or something to the same effect. Does this therefore constitute sufficient ground? Somebody in the market just said that this will mean that Facebook's following in the markets and market participants will decline in the country.
Yes. No, so I think, as I said, you should not read all that much into it. The whole evidence was not based. This is not a critical piece of evidence. This is just one of the 10 things which they've relied on to show that there is a connection between two people. So I think, given specific facts, I think a Facebook relationship can have at least some, can be shown as some minor piece of evidence in a case of insider trading. It certainly cannot be a major piece of evidence simply because you end up being friends with tons of people you barely know or don't even know all. LinkedIn is a classic example. Yeah.
Sandeep, in the context of another case and WhatsApp-based alleged leak of information, can we sort of connect the dots here that WhatsApp is also being looked at by the regulator, Facebook is also being looked at? What does it mean for how market participants should approach social media and such platforms, Sandeep?
I think people should certainly be more careful in terms of what they do on these. These are obviously different social medias, and their treatment would be different as pieces of evidence. WhatsApp is similar to your SMSs, but that's kind of more difficult to kind of breach that for regulators and get information out. So I think each one would be seen differently, and each one behaves also differently in terms of what you can access from outside. WhatsApp would be between two or more people as part of a group, whereas Facebook would be the relationship is often visible to the others. So these will all have different implications.
Absolutely right, Sandeep. It will have different implications, and as the implications are further digested in the market, we'll come back to you for more. Thank you very much for joining us. Deep, it's back to you in the studio. It's clear that this adds a newer element to how market participants have to deal with matters related to unpublished price-sensitive information, and perhaps a finer and more deeper reading of this order will have its own impact. But you heard Sandeep say that Facebook also in some ways is now being looked at by the market regulator, and that is my reading also of the order at this stage.
Absolutely. So the regulator expanding the scope of investigations when looking for proof of insider trading, and of course this will be an interesting development for markets to watch as well. Thanks for getting us those details, Siddharth. Just to get back to a couple of stocks on the radar, Manav, come in on a federal bank, opened with a positive bias in trade today. Since then it's cracked and now down about 3%. Of course, we're watching out for numbers, so maybe that also has something to do with the movement on the stock. But how is this one looking to you? After consolidating, it finally moved above 100. Seems like now it's in danger of moving below 100 once again.
I think, looking at the overall formation, this could just be the short-term volatility, that could be making these stock prices go here and there. But I think on the near-term perspective, 95, 96 are the important support levels to look out for. So as a short-term trader, one should not get into this stock at the current levels, but wait for the stock to come close to the support. I think 95 is an important support which this stock would hold. In fact, Federal Bank before this move eventually had observed a very good breakout, and I sense that these levels would be sustained for the near-term perspective. And since the medium-term trend is still intact, so one should look to buy this stock at the lower levels. Eventually, I think in the near-term perspective, once if the stock bounces from its lower support, we can again see the stock test the levels of 105 to 110.
All right, could see levels of 105, 110 again for a federal bank. The other one that I wanted to ask you about, Manav, was an Arvind. Following the numbers coming out, seen a very, very strong up move for this one. We're still holding on to those gains, trading at days high, up about 5% as far as an Arvind Limited goes. How's this one looking to you on the charts?
In fact, it's looking very good. The stock has eventually managed to see a good breakout above the levels of 430, and the stock has actually not been able to exceed these levels since last couple of months, and it has also managed to exceed its March high. So overall, the momentum looks good. In fact, previous 7-8 trading sessions of decline has been retraced completely in one day. The volumes are looking very supportive. I think this stock should be a buy on dips approach at least for next couple of weeks. On the immediate basis, the recent breakout will now act as a support, so 430 would be an important support levels on the downside. We recommend a buy into this even at the current levels for dips. One can maintain a positional stop loss below 430 for an upside target of 470.
All right, that is an Arvind for you. Joining the likes of Raymond and Bombay Dyeing as far as the textile movers and shakers goes. Remember, Arvind had been consolidating for a while. Finally, post its earnings, seeing a very sharp up move in trade at the highs of the day right now, up 5% in trade. We'll take a very short break, come back and put the spotlight on the mega deal that will be announced later today evening. Walmart logs into Flipkart to pick up majority stake in the Indian e-com major. What it means for the company and the industry as a whole. We'll put the spotlight on that in just a couple of minutes.
Welcome back. You're watching the trading day. Let's put the focus on some key earnings that we're waiting by for. Eicher Motors on the radar. The stock under pressure right ahead of earnings. Yesterday was doing quite well. In fact, running up in anticipation. But today we're seeing some amount of profit booking. A sharp fall, in fact, coming in just in the last couple of minutes. We're expecting a steady set of numbers. We're expecting profits to see a jump of about 38%. Of course, the key factors that we're watching out for is the outlook on Royal Enfield demand and an update on their timeline for new launches. We have Hiral Desai joining us with the street estimates. Hiral, what are we watching out for from Eicher?
Right, so overall, yes, a good quarter is what is expected. If you see on a consolidated basis, we've seen in terms of where sales are concerned, expecting an up move of around 36-37% at 2,570 crores. Profits are expected to improve by around 38-39% and come in at 635 crores. However, margins are expected to remain flat in the 31% mark. Talking in terms of where Royal Enfield is concerned, 350 plus cc models have shown the strongest growth in the fourth quarter, where volumes went up by around 76-77%. The total two-wheeler sales continued to show strong growth of around 27%, and the volume growth was mainly aided by capacity addition as well as a healthy demand as well. Now, overall, in terms of Royal Enfield, the realizations are also expected to improve, and this is mainly on the back of a favorable product mix as well as the price hikes that the company has taken during the quarter. Talking in terms of VECV, total sales have grown by around 33%, and this was mainly led by light as well as medium duty vehicles, and they saw a growth of around 57%. However, the underperformance has continued in terms of where the bus segment goes, wherein the bus volumes have declined by almost 16-17% during the quarter. Overall, we are expecting realizations to improve by around 6-6.5%, and this is mainly aided by the light as well as the medium duty vehicles. But overall, if you go to see, there is some impact in terms of higher commodity prices, and that's what is keeping the margins pretty much under check. Key thing that we will be watching out for will be the management commentary in terms of the steps that they are taking to increase their export business as well. Beyond that, the Royal Enfield demand as well as how the order book is looking like. The update in terms of where timeline of new launches is concerned. Demand trends in terms of commercial vehicles, because that's also one of the sectors or subsectors in the auto space which is actually seeing a good amount of volume growth over the last couple of months. And very lastly, capacity addition and what's the capex going to look like for FY19. But overall, a good set of numbers is what is expected from an Eicher Motors.
Expected from Eicher Motors. Manav, you want to come in on this stock? Again, a little volatile, could be because of the event risk, expecting those numbers anytime now. Eicher went through a period of consolidation, has seen some bit of an up move recently, but it's not a convincing move over here. What do you do with an Eicher right now?
See, the stock has actually confirmed a good trend reversal, and most importantly, it has an important support at 29,800. So, I believe the stock has also showing a series of range shift, which is indicating a series of high tops and bottoms. So, this is definitely a buy and dips approach. I recommend a buy into this near the support levels, and eventually, I think the stock should not be played for a short-term perspective, but one should actually hold it for a medium term, because looking at the overall trend reversal, I think you would see the stock close to the levels of another 10 to 15% upside. So one should definitely look to buy. The support would be at 29,800 to 29,700 would be the range on the lower side.
All right, Manav, just a quick word on a couple of these battery stocks, Amara Raja Battery versus an Exide. We've seen a bit of a reversal in the sort of moves that we've seen for the last couple of sessions. Today, Amara Raja seeing very strong gains in trade at day's high, currently up about 4%, while Exide Industries is the one that is trading under pressure. How are these charts looking to you? Are you spotting any opportunities in either one of them?
Yes, absolutely. Looking at the chart of Amara Raja, the stock has been in a very good momentum. It has been forming a series of high tops and bottoms consecutively since last 20-25 trading sessions. And most importantly, there has been a breakout on the monthly chart. So I believe, this momentum in Amara Raja would maintain for next couple of weeks. And this is a good buy on dips. At least for the near-term perspective, 865, the support of Amara Raja would be held. In fact, Exide Industries, if we look, the stock, after a good rally that we saw in last couple of trading sessions, you may see some sort of a consolidation for the near term. But if I'm talking of purely risk reward basis, I think Amara Raja still has a good momentum on the upside, whereas the Exide Industries could witness some sort of a consolidation move in the near term.
All right, just some flashes at the bottom of your screen. This is from Financial Ministry official on the crude prices. Crude, mind you, is at a fresh 3.5-year high. Finance Ministry official saying the risk of global crude oil remaining high for longer has now increased because of the recent developments, including US pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. Have to watch global oil price movement for a while before any policy response. See supply of Iran oil constrained after US sanctions, which is an important point. Remember, US has about 180 days to put those sanctions back on once again. So we'll have to wait and see if that really happens, and then the kind of impact it has on global crude oil supplies. Remember, India is a big buyer of Iranian crude, so this will have a direct impact on our import of crude as well. But of course, that remains to be seen. Meanwhile, above 71 on WTI crude at the moment. So the concerns here are clearly rising. OMCs, meanwhile, have recovered from the lows of the day, but continue to remain under slight bit of pressure at the moment. BPCL still down by about 1.5%. HPCL down about 0.3%. IOC has moved into positive territory. And you have, of course, reports also that oil marketing companies haven't really passed on the recent price hike of crude oil to consumers in the last few days. Possibly after Karnataka election, you could see a significant move up on some of the oil prices. But let's put the spotlight on the big deal that is brewing in the Indian retail space. Walmart is picking up stake in e-com giant Flipkart. That deal is officially going to be announced at 4:30 today evening. It's got a lot of people on the street excited as well. And possibly if Walmart's plans are in place, then you could look at a listing of Flipkart somewhere down the future as well. Neha Tyagi joins in to give us a lowdown on really this deal and what it could mean for the retail space, as well as, of course, the comments that came in from the SoftBank CEO, which held about 20% stake in Flipkart and will now be exiting as part of this Walmart deal. Neha.
Well, that's right. As you said, this is the largest deal in the e-commerce space that the world has seen so far. We will be hearing from the two companies. The official announcement will come in by 4:30. But for now, the SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son has confirmed that Walmart is in fact bought controlling stake in the Indian e-commerce giant. SoftBank owns 20% stake in Flipkart and is reportedly exiting completely from the company. Now, SoftBank had purchased 20% stake in Flipkart for $2.5 billion in August 2017, that is last year. According to the CEO, the current $2.5 billion will now be valued at $4 billion. He also informed the news agencies that the deal was made Tuesday night, that is Japan time. Just to give an idea of the shareholding pattern, Naspers and Axel are two of the shareholders of the company which will be completely exiting the company. Early Flipkart investor Tiger Global, which currently holds about 20% in the company, is expected to sell majority stake and retain some. Tencent as well will retain some part of the stake.
All right, so that is a big deal brewing over there. It's been a momentous journey for Flipkart since its inception in 2007. It has been through several rounds of fundraising, went through a bit of a tough time as well, took the strategy of acquiring some of its competitors and of course is taking Amazon head on in the Indian markets. Meanwhile, Amazon has also received a war chest of about 2,600 crore rupees from its US parent to increase competition in the Indian markets. So good days ahead for you and me as far as buying online is concerned. The price wars could, this move could in fact trigger a fresh price war and have an impact on the entire retail space as a whole as well. But we will watch out for that announcement later today evening to get more details on this one. Right then, let's take a very short break. We'll come back, get into the last 15 minutes of trade with Manav and discuss some more buzzing stocks back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back. You're watching the Trading Day. We have Ritesh Asher also joining in from KIFS Trade Capital. Ritesh, good afternoon. Good to have you on. Just let's start off with some ideas from you. What's on your radar as you're looking at trade this afternoon? Markets on a much firmer foot than it was at least yesterday. Things are looking up. What's your view for the market and any specific stocks that are catching your eye?
See, overall, if you see, the market has already reached to such a psychological level that it has just 10,700. The hypnosis level, what we are discussing last time, it has went to 10,400 to 10,050. I personally feel connections are due to the global cues and the crude oil prices increasing day by day, which is a big concern. Okay. So overall, the focus of Indian market is right now to conduct the election. Traction of getting market is quite difficult as of now. But I personally feel the stock specific is going to be a fantastic bit to the earnings. And my bet is on Tata Motors. The Tata Motors, if you look at it, almost 86% from the domestic sales. At the same time, the commercial sales has also jumped 156%, which is a fantastic growth in terms of sales. And looking at the industry PE, Tata industry PE running around 41 and the Tata Motors PE running at around 9. I feel the stock quite good. The long perspective, the Tata Motors is a big bet to go for.
All right, Ritesh, we'll just try and sort out a bit of an audio issue we have with your line. But Manav, let's talk about some other stocks. I'm going to focus in on some mid-cap names right now. Top gainer on the BSE mid-cap index, Oberoi Realty 4.5% up. PNB Housing 5.5% up on that counter. And let's add a couple of the graphite names over there as well. HEG and Graphite India also looking up in trade right now. Any trade you see on these names?
See, looking at the charts for Oberoi, the stock has recently declined from its recent peak of 610, and in the past the stock has been forming a series of high tops and bottoms, and I think at the current level, since it has bounced from its oversold zone and we have witnessed a breakout of its past 4 trading sessions, I think the stock is very well poised to move higher and even retest its highs of 580. So at the current levels, I think the stock is very well poised. The volume breakout also confirms the same. The other stock you mentioned was PNB Housing. The stock after a good reversal on the weekly charts, there was a gap down opening, and now we are seeing the stock close its gap. So unless the stock doesn't close above 1350 on the weekly basis, we will not be able to see any fresh momentum on the upside. But there are chances that the stock could find a new support close to the levels of 1280 on the low side. So I sense that once the stock consolidates its support levels, eventually you will see high targets coming forward. Eventually, I think in the near term, one should wait for some declines, at least near the support levels, to initiate fresh trades in PNB Housing.
So PNB Housing looking good going ahead. Remember, it's seeing a strong recovery from the kind of pressure that it was under recently. Manav, just come in on a few of these mid-cap PSU banks as well. They've had a strong run for the last couple of sessions, but today under pressure sectorally, this is where we're seeing the weakest trade going on. But the exception to the kind of the cuts that we're seeing on a Union Bank, Canara Bank are the likes of an IDBI Bank and Indian Bank. Both these counters holding out quite smartly in trade at the moment. 2% gains for an IDBI Bank. How are these charts looking to you?
See, IDBI in fact looks very good. Looking at the weekly chart perspective, we have already seen a good decline from its recent highs of 82, and the stock is consolidating near its 100-day DMA. And in the past, we've seen the stock, has formed a good support series at 100 DMA, and eventually has rallied for at least 10 to 15% in a very short time frame. Also, on the daily perspective, there has been a breakout on the trend line, so which is confirming at least a short-term trend reversal. I think eventually one should only take a trading view into IDBI because the momentum is still looking very positive looking at the volume. So support of 67 is very good. So a stop loss of 67 can be placed for an immediate target close to 73. Also the stock of the other stocks from the PSU space, specifically Indian Bank, has seen a breakout from its inverse head and shoulder pattern, and this is a very important pattern when it comes out a selection of bottom formation. And for a medium term perspective, I sense the stock has already formed a good bottom for a near term. We don't see lower levels, maximum of 5% from the current level, so that is the minimum risk that one can eventually take. But on the upside, the stock has a potential to test the levels of 380. For a very short term perspective, I think the momentum can take this stock towards the levels of 360 levels also.
All right, just pull up a Jubilant Life. Those numbers are now flashing at the bottom of your screen. Profit just about flat, 155 crores versus 150 crores on a YY basis. Top line has seen a very healthy growth. At 2,252 crores versus 1,641. It's a jump of 37% on a YOY basis. So good growth on the top line. Now maybe a couple of operational issues could have led to that flat performance on the bottom line. The stock is just about flat in trade right now. Not seeing any movement in trade. Let's talk about some other movers. KRBL, put this one up and pull up the intraday chart on a KRBL. Has been on a very wild ride in today's trading session. Opened a bit lower and since then saw a smart recovery in trade. We spoke to the management today morning as well on whether the Iran sanctions coming back could have an impact on Indian rice exporters. He said for the moment at least they're not worried. So that stock is seeing a good traction in trade at the moment. You have AU Small Finance Bank up 5.5% in trade. Watch out for this one as well. You have something like a Star Cement which is on the move once again, 3.5% up. Syntex Plastics and Syntex Industries, both of these stocks are seeing a very smart move in trade. Syntex Industries up about 7.5%. Syntex Plastics up about 3.5% right now as well. But on First Source and KRBL, we don't really talk about these stocks very often, Manav, but seeing a very strong up move in today's trade. Will you recommend a fresh buy at these levels?
See, looking at the charts of First Source, the stock has already rallied by over 40% in last 2 or 3 months. The stock has come out from its good sideways long-term consolidation formation. I don't recommend fresh longs in FSL at the current levels, but what I say is, on the lower side, 60, 63 are the important weekly support levels. Eventually, after such a run-up, we do see a mean reversion near the support levels. I think that is the fresh entry zone for any traders on the lower side. Eventually, looking at the long-term trend which is intact, I think the stock has entered into a fresh new trading zone. Eventually we can expect this stock to test the levels of 85 in the long-term perspective. I think that keeping that in mind, one should definitely look to buy on dips. KRBL in fact has seen a huge sharp rise in volumes in last couple of trading sessions, which is backed by a good breakout on the daily charts after a good sideways consolidation. I think in the near-term perspective, the stock can be bought at the current levels and on dips, keeping a strict stop loss of 520 on the lower side. Eventually, if the 520 levels is held, I think we can see a rally towards the levels of 580 to 600.
All right, those are key levels to watch out for on a KRBL. Another sector that's doing quite well, we're looking at IT stocks today. Once again, top sectoral gainer. TCS, of course, leading the way, seeing gains in excess of 1%, nearly 1.5% up as far as the TCS goes. HCL Tech, Infosys, a lot of the heavyweights are doing quite well in trade, but mid-cap IT also seeing good gains. Look at Tata Elxsi has been seeing a good move, in fact, for a couple of days. Oracle Finance Services, Take Solutions. Any of these names looking good to you, Manav?
In fact, I believe, for at least for the near-term perspective, when we talk about TCS, the stock has already seen a good run-up, and there is chances, after a good sharp rally, the stock usually gets into a consolidation or a time correction. I think that is what will eventually happen in stocks all across, let it be FSL, Take Solutions, or even TCS. So I think it's time for the traders who are looking for the fresh momentum play. One should switch over from the IT space and probably get into the auto packs or the banking space, where you you could see some sort of a fresh momentum, at least for the price, which could move at least by 5%. I think IT space could see some sort of a consolidation and then eventually see a breakout on the upside. But at least keeping a view for a near-term perspective for a week or so, I think IT space would be in a broadway sideways action.
All right, there could be in Broadway sideways action. Let's talk about a couple of other stocks. Manav, we were just talking about some of the large cap Tata Group stocks names that are on the move. The likes of a TCS, Titan, as well as a Tata Motors and a Tata Steel right now. But also pull up a Tata Global Beverages. That stock is again seeing some buying traction in trade right now. What's the chart telling you on a Tata Global? It's fallen off the highs of the day, was up about 1.5% at one point. At around 290, 300 mark, what would you do with the Tata Global?
Yes, in fact, the stock is looking very well poised, to see some higher moves in the near term. It has important key support levels at 285, and looking at the overall scenario, the stock has managed to sustain above its 100 EMA since past 4 to 5 trading sessions, and the volumes has seen a good rise, as the prices were inching higher. So I think the short-term consolidation eventually will break on the upside. The important resistance for this stock will be at 294. So once if it exceeds 294, you will see this rally exceed, and looking at the overall near-term formation and the oscillators picture, I think the stock is very well poised to exceed its all-time highs of 328 and eventually go towards the level of 380. So that is our long-term target for Tata Global. At the current levels, it's a very good risk-reward ratio. I think a stop of 280 can be maintained.
All right, so that's the view on a Tata Global. In fact, Deep, you mentioned a Tata Steel. We're seeing good traction in these metal counters today. Pull up a Vedanta. Hindalco saw a good up move even before close yesterday as well, recovering from the kind of pressure they were under. The rally that we're seeing in commodities really spilling over to this kind of stock reaction. Hindalco has cooled off, in fact, at day's low as we speak. But JSPL, Tata Steel, Vedanta continuing to hold up as we speak. Any view you have, Manav, on these metal stocks at the moment?
See, at the current levels, when we look at the chart for Tata Steel, the stock has formed a higher bottom at 570 compared to its previous lows at 560. So, it is trying to form a higher base. The important resistance, it has also managed to exceed its yesterday's high. So, for the near term, I think the overall scenario looks positive also for next couple of weeks. So, on the lower side, if you look, the volumes are also much higher today compared to the yesterday when the breakout happened. So, I sense that, in the near term, you will see some sort of a momentum coming. The oscillators have also given a fresh crossover today, at least in Tata Steel, and we can expect the stock to exceed its recent swing high and eventually touch the levels of 535. We have also given a buy call on Jindalstel and Power. So in case if someone has to take a view, I think these two stocks are very well poised.
All right, so Jindal Steel and Power, watch out for that one. In fact, we're expecting those earnings to come out, and there will be a press conference a little later as well. Just a couple of minutes to go for closing, so we'll connect with Ritesh and Manav in just a couple of minutes. But let's address closing first up. Strong day for the markets after a bit of a consolidation in trade yesterday and a weak start in today's trading session. Markets have rebounded quite smartly at about 10,750 on the Nifty at close of trade. Like we were just talking about, Tata Group stocks have led the Nifty today. Tata Motors and Titan, the top two gainers on the street. Titan, of course, watching out for those numbers tomorrow as well. Tata Steel and TCS are also amongst the top 6-7 gainers. UPL having a very strong day of trade as well, 1.5% at close on that one. Yes Bank has led all through the day and is the top gainer on the Banknifty as well, along with an Axis Bank, some buying in HDFC Bank today. IndusInd and Kotak also saw some buying. Federal Bank slipped ahead of its numbers, closing lower by about 2.5-3% in trade today. We'll watch out for those earnings as well. Bharti Infratel up about 1% at close. Reliance Industries providing some support, up about 1%. Asian Paints buzzing ahead of its numbers. Bharti Airtel was also looking good in today's trading session. HUL saw some buying. Vedanta closed off the highs of the day. GAIL saw some buying, and so did Bajaj Finserv. Indian Oil Corporation did manage to close out in positive. HPCL and BPCL too rebounded from the lows of the day, and as Piyush was saying, that technically it looks like things may be turning a tide as far as the oil marketing companies go. The breadth was positive, allowance decline ratio of 3:2 on the Nifty, but you did have some weakness coming in on an Ultratech, top loser in trade today, 2.5% down on that counter. BPCL, HPCL were weak. Lupin saw some cuts. Bajaj Finance saw cuts today. Sun Pharma was weak once again. Wipro from the IT pack was on the back foot. Maruti from the auto pack, as well as an M&M. Coal India and ONGC were some of the other stocks that closed out in negative territory. Broader markets underperforming the benchmarks today, but you had a lot of names that held out quite smartly. PNB Housing, the top gainer on the BSE HDFC Midcap 5.5% up. AU Small Finance, good gains coming in for this one. Oberoi Realty, IDBI Bank, Kanza and Nerolac, Cummins India, Amar Raja, all of these stocks saw a good up move in today's trading session. First Solution was up almost 10% at close of trade. HEG and Graphite India, very strong move in these counters as well. KRBL, Take Solutions, Mahindra Holidays on the back of its earnings closing out near the highs of the day, 6% up on that counter. ITD Cementation, good going for this one as well. Rain Industries and HCL Infosystems. Arvind, again on the back of earnings, very smart move on this as well. All of your drilling or offshore stocks were also on the move. Aban Offshore, Ceylon Exploration, Dolphin Offshore saw some good gains in today's trading session. HOEC was also up in today's trade. Balrampur Chini, short covering rally, 2.5% up. PC Jewelers, 2.5% up in today's trade. Nesco, good buying in this one as well. Cadila Healthcare up about 1.5%. ICICI Prudential was up 2% at close as well. Kolte Patil from the real estate pack was on the move, and so was Radico Khetan from the distilleries names. You had Jindal Steel and Power saw some buying. Ujjivan saw some follow-on buying in today's trade. Emphasis, JBF Industries, Rallis India and Granules were some of the other counters that were on the move. Varun Beverage also in positive trade today. Sundaram Fasteners fell about 4.5%. GVK Power after a big rally corrected in trade today. Cholamandalam Investment was on the back foot. Bombay Dyeing saw some profit taking after a big rally. Delta Corp correcting once again. Inox Leisure under pressure. Greenply Industries, Time Technoplast, Welspun India. Apollo Hospitals saw some profit taking. BEML, Godrej Agrovet, Shriram City Union Finance and Growth Finance were some of the other stocks that fell in today's trading session. But Ritesh is back with us. Ritesh, having a couple of issues with you, but just give us your call on First Source Solutions, because you've been bullish on this counter as well and saw a big move in today's trading session. What would you attribute that to? And also give us a call on a couple of financial names that you're looking at, especially something like HDFC Life as well as an L&T Finance.
So basically, I'm quite bullish on L&T Finance and HDFC Life. First, let us talk about the HDFC Life. If you see the HDFC Life, the profit of the year-on basis, it have been increased by almost 40%, and the premium collection has also reached from premium to 9,000 crore premium. HDFC Life has come out with some good pension plan wherein the premium will going to get increased. So I personally feel this industry having a product demand, the HDFC Life is one of the best product who is going to outperform. Apart from that, if we see the renewal percentage, that is also reaches to around 86%, and the claim settlement is also 99.1%, which is a fantastic compared to the other peer group. So HDFC Life will be my strong bet. L&T Finance, if you see this stock, 175, but looking at the L&T Finance, the loan book value have been increased from 50,000 crores to, and the year-on-year basis, the profit have been increased to 28%. Apart from that, the borrowing fund value have been also reduced from 8.7% to 8.1%. So they have reduced their funding cost. So I think it is a fantastic book value. So I personally feel L&T Finance, we should buy at the current market price with a target of 220.
All right, 220 is a target for an L&T Finance, and along with that, an HDFC Standard Life also looking good there to Ritesh. Manav, just coming to you quickly for a couple of closing comments. So what's on your radar as you set yourself up for trade tomorrow? Also, we closed out just under that 750 mark, 10,740 is where we closed out on the Nifty. What does this really mean in terms of key levels that you're watching as we go into trade tomorrow?
See, importantly, the markets have managed to sustain and hold on to its important key support levels of 10,700, and Banknifty has actually formed a series of higher. I think looking at the overall scenario, things are very well poised. I think we, at least for next couple of trading sessions, we could see higher levels, at least in the Nifty and the Banknifty both. For Nifty, I think once if it exceeds 10,780 on the upside, you could see another 100 points move on the upside. So for the near term, the stock one should definitely look out is Tata Motors. It has seen a very good bounce from its important support levels, and with the series of positive divergence and being a Nifty stock, I think for the near term, this stock could see a very good rally of another 7 to 8% from the current levels.
All right, could see a rally of 7 to 8% from current levels. Manav, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining and sharing your view on the market this afternoon. Ritesh, just hold on, stay with us for a minute. I want to talk about some earnings that we're watching by for, we're standing by for in trade tomorrow. Titan is a stock in focus. Now, the stock saw